As we're learning that one of the candidates farther down our list here is suspending his campaign, NBC News reporting that Mr. Yang will no longer be a member of
And he seemed to hint that this was going to happen. He's already talking about 2024. You know, it's interesting. He was a candidate that had New Hampshire been more relevant in everybody's thoughts 3 months ago. He's the type of candidate that if he parked himself here, he might have. The New Hampshire electorate was the place that
they might have decided they loved him.
Yeah, that he could have had some traction. But look, it didn't look like New Hampshire. There was a lot of people avoiding it due to the Warren Sanders factor.
And let's also point out that, you know, he came farther, I think, than probably a lot of us expected when he first jumped into it.
He lasted longer and raised more money than people like Beto O'Rourke, Kamala Harris.
A lot of conventional candidates
pretty big
we spent a lot of energy on, you know, have long dropped out of this race, and it took till here in New Hampshire to lose him.
And look, we have Beth Fooey and Carrie Deng with us. Beth, the universal basic income we talk about, it's a quirky policy issue to people now. This is something that's gaining more mainstream attention. In 4 years, he might not seem like the weird, quirky guy.
Yeah, well, he certainly sort of projected himself as the odd, quirky guy. He owned that. But you're right. On the UBI, that was an interesting aspect of this whole thing. And that's, I think, why he was able to stay in as long as he did. Because he had a real message. There was a theory of the case to his campaign. We saw Kamala Harris never really come up with a theory of her case. Andrew Yang had that. And whether you agree with him or not, he was a very compelling advocate for his position. He brought people over to him for that reason. But what we didn't see was any sign that he could talk about much of anything else.
Right.
And that might have been sort of the thing that felled him. Is this the guy that's going to stand up to Putin or to Kim Jong-un or to manage a big national security crisis?
Carrie, what was his great discipline was always bringing every answer back to UBI, the Universal Basic Income. What was his great? You were like, okay, do you have a second? Do you have a second move?
Right. And
at these debates.
And his stump speech changed very, very little. And he would bring it to these new audiences, and it is so different than what they had heard from other candidates that sometimes he would get a really great reception in the room. And then I would talk to our embeds who were with him at the time, and they would say that was word for word what he was saying a week ago and 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, every time we go, oh, wow. And you're like, oh, no.
And in debates, it showed that he sometimes wasn't as nimble answering those questions, or when he was speaking off the cuff, he was refreshing because it was an unusual message. But his stump speech itself, he was always very disciplined to the point of, you know, I think a lot of viewers or a lot of voters saw him and they said, I like what he has to say, but it's a little one note.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.